one of the most overblown myths that there is in all of health is the idea that we need protein, man. It's like, dude, are you crazy? Supplement industry is multi. It's like the movie industry. It's so big. Billions.
Interesting.
So what's the easiest thing to sell? Whey. What is whey?
Yeah.
Whey is the shit that comes off the milk when you're milking cows. It's something that they threw away. And all of a sudden, some genius, probably Joe Weider, said, "You're throwing that away?"
I went to this private doctor, this concierge like doctor, who's like all about like genetic testing and longevity and all the shit that we talk about, training. And it was such an amazing experience because like, you know, you go to the regular doctor for your annual physical and like they're with you for about 20 minutes. And they're like, do you smoke? Do you drink? Knock your fucking knees. You know what I mean? Like, all right, go take a blood test. And like, if you're not, you know, if the blood test doesn't come back, like, all right, this guy's going to die in 6 months, they send you packing. And the appointment with this guy was for 2.5 hours. Like it was a 2.5 hour appointment. And we went through like, what blew my mind is that we started talking about like weed, THC, and he's asking me like how I respond to THC. And I said to him, most of my life, THC kind of acts to me as a stimulant. Like weed doesn't calm me down. Weed cranks me up and like really like and we're talking and he pulls out like a CBD tincture and he goes, drop that on your tongue. And then like 15 minutes later, like I'm feeling like a little, and he's like, you know what's interesting is that most people will get, you know, and I'm like, I get cranked up regardless of strain. And he's
that
like,
was going to be my question.
Yeah.
Sativa or indica, you don't, yeah.
I get cranked up regardless of strain. And he's like, your body might respond better to CBD rather than THC. And I'm like, I never really thought about that because I thought like CBD is for like fucking housewives who are afraid to smoke weed. And I've been smoking weed forever. And I've been playing with it for a day or two. And like, and I feel a little bit of like that edge off. And like, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I just went to the doctor and you know what I mean? Like, it's amazing. Like to have that kind of conversation. And then, you know, he ordered like a test of like my adrenal glands and like, cause that's a big indicator
of what though?
You know, how I didn't do it yet. I gotta like, it's being
no, I
sent
mean,
to
what
my
is
house.
what is he saying that it will indicate?
It's a big indicator to like, to, you know, how stress and like your central nervous system is reacting to your lifestyle.
That's right.
Like it's a real measuring stick. And, you know, we're all just going. But like, it was just a really cool experience because it was like such a, like, because you're naive if you think that like, you're going to go to any doctor and they're just going to like wave their magic wand and like make you good. But the concept of how spent almost 3 hours with this guy and we established a relationship where we can work together. I have a cell phone. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, it's a working relationship. And like, I think that's kind of the best what you could ask for in terms of managing your own health. Like there's a whole world in where like, I got to do, you know, we as individuals have to put our part in, but then to be able to have that baseline relationship with the doctor to where, okay, this is a working relationship. We're going to talk through this and we're going to kind of, because everybody's unique and everybody's individual. But that's not the way, you know, you get this healthcare like just normally. And it was just really cool.
I think, you know, when you talk about that, I think that what hits me is the fact that you're absolutely right. The number one thing is that we have to take responsibility for our own healthcare, right? And if you think about the population as a whole, you know, when you look at obesity and the epidemic in America, but you know, in a lot of countries, but really in America, it's like people just don't give a shit. They think that they're just going to be able to just exist, you know, just have this lifestyle this
Just
rich
do nothing, but
industrialized world. Yeah. And then maybe it's one day they'll get in shape. It's like, man, you got to be proactive. And I, for me, I'm all about data. And it sounds like you now will have a partnership with someone who's going to be able to give you like real world data on what's
yeah, well,
working and
so
what's not working for you so you can make the decision and he's going to help you.
that's 100% what it was, and that's such like an awesome way to do it. Like because you don't get that with the regular doctor. You just get like your blood panels and like your cholesterol's high, cholesterol's low. But he
Oh
gave
my
me
God.
like he did like a BMI test, and he was
Hmm.
like, "All right, you need to lose 11 pounds. You want to be in optimal body fat range. Like you need to be about 172, 173. That's where you need to be." And like
Wow.
you know what I mean? Like that's dope. You know what I mean? Because like now that's a target, that's data,
Oh yeah.
and it's based. You know it makes sense. It's based. You know what I mean? And it's like that's just so different than the way the regular medical system works.
No, totally, totally. Especially looking at BMI. I've never had a doctor that did that ever. Not once.
Yeah,
Not fucking once,
really
man.
cool. And then
Yeah,
speaking of like
no,
losing
that's
weight,
dope,
I,
man.
very dope, and I was excited about it. And I was saying to him, and I wanted to ask you about this. I don't think we've ever talked about this in terms of like smoking or eating edibles, just being high, or whatever, and training. Do you do that? Because I love to do that.
No,
I love to be
no,
stoned and train because I feel as though like my mind body connection is so completely like synced, and I've always enjoyed that.
no. Because it goes back to what you were saying with everybody's body's different. And like if I
Okay,
smoke weed, I'm
it
like I
slows you
get
down.
couch no, I get couch lock. I'm like on the
Yeah,
couch, or in bed chilling and just
yeah.
meditating and you know what I mean and either watching a movie or tripping out or whatever it is, but it affects me so differently. Like
Okay,
I've done it. There was one time when living in Newport Beach, the waves, barreling waves are very, very hard to surf, right?
sure.
Because the moment you stand up, they'll barrel like this, which is typically how it goes on a beach break. And so we were surfing like it was like dusk one night, and it was like just immediate barrels. And we got really, really high. And I went out there and I was like, man, I'm not even going to catch a wave. Dude, I surfed so well.
I love
I
that.
like the whole everything slowed down and it was just effortless. But it's never happened again. And I've tried a few times and so um and jujitsu I think I've tried once or twice and I just lose myself, you know what I mean?
I
I've
do it all
had
the
time
time. I love to roll high. Love
people
it.
love it. Eddie Bravo, a lot of guys, dude, let me tell you something. There are a lot of people that love to do jujitsu high.
And
It's a
even lifting
very
weights, like
common thing.
I like lifting weights high.
Mm, I don't.
It's just I but like you said, it's like, and this
I
is the
can't get a
interesting
pump.
thing. Interesting. Like
Yeah, because
and for
everybody's
me,
different. Yeah.
everybody's different. Yeah. Like it for me, it connects me to like it makes me present. It makes me like ultra present. But I have to be doing something relatively high intensity because if
Hmm.
I'm not, then I get paranoid because it cranks me up.
Oh,
It cranks me up to
yeah.
like fucking like I'm reinventing fucking the space station. I'm you know what I mean? Like I'm cranked up. It's
So
funny.
so one time a guy that I knew back in California, he was like, he was sober, right? He did not do anything, but his sister was going through chemo and he wanted to send her a jar like of edibles, right? That he made like a coconut butter. And he came over and he was like, dude, can you test this for me? And tell me what you think, right? And tell me if it's too strong enough, or whatever. And it was like a coconut jar, like thing of coconut oil, and it was the darkest green you've ever seen.
Oh
And
shit.
so, oh, Dude, so I have whenever my friends would come over and I used it and I was like, dude, this shit is so strong. Your sister's gonna love it. And it was great for her. But whenever my friends would come over, we would make tea and we would
Yeah.
call it getting on the spaceship. Because, dude, the walls would breathe where it was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I couldn't even imagine working out or doing jujitsu on anything like that.
Yeah.
But it definitely, like, as far as paranoia, it made you learn how to just center yourself. Oh, no matter what was going on in your mind, right? So, anyways, it's I often tell people that, doing psychedelics, I think edibles, back to what you were saying about getting paranoid, I think edibles are more difficult to deal with than even psychedelics, than heavy psychedelics. Because psychedelics, you kind of break through and you have this like blissful thing when you are able to go through it, right? Where and they know it's the idea behind it is that it shuts down the default mode network, which is the area of the brain that we tell stories in. And when we get rid
Mhm.
of our stories, our stories are what cause so much of our suffering, right? Because we're sitting there telling ourselves story, blah, blah, torturing ourselves. You shouldn't have done this. You did this, blah, 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 right?
Yep.
When that shuts down and we're okay with it, and we just let it go, then you float off into this place where the whole universe is like connected. But with cannabis, there's no like breaking through it. You're just in it the whole time where it's just
Yeah.
rah, rah, rah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have to do like 2.5s on edibles. Like I live in between 2.5 and 5 milligrams, and like that's not a lot. And like, but any more than that,
With
I
the
get paranoid as
microdosing,
fuck.
with the microdosing.
No, no, just edibles, not mushrooms. Mushrooms
Oh,
is,
okay, okay,
different.
okay, okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But THC, like it like when I'm playing music, like, or if I'm like not even like in recording, like if I'm playing with like other musicians and like we're in a zone and it's physical, I can do it, and it kind of just I kind of just get into like my body. But like if I have to think and be analytical, it's way too it's intense.
I will say this, man, that playing music, I'm a musician also, and jamming with people, there's nothing better, man.
Yeah,
There's
it's
nothing
amazing.
better, man. THC is there. I don't know what it does, but you know, like my favorite band is the Beatles. I grew up on the Beatles. It's like
Same,
it's still
same.
my favorite band, right? And when you listen to the cutoff between, their early albums and then
Yeah,
when
and
they
then like
did
Revolver
Rubber
and Rubber
Soul,
Soul.
Rubber
Yeah.
Soul, dude, Rubber Soul was when they started doing marijuana, right?
Yep,
And
yep.
then Revolver was when they started doing psychedelics. And then
Yep, yep,
came
yep.
Sergeant Peppers and everything. But there is no greater case study, right?
100%.
And it was an interesting story is the Beatles were in, I think they were in New York in their hotel, right? And it was already Beatlemania. And so they had cops outside their rooms and all this shit. And they met Bob Dylan and he came over and hung out with them. And they were like, hey, they're all having a drink and they're like, do you want some pills? Because they all took amphetamines then. That was like the
Mm.
thing. Right. And he was like, no, man, I don't want that. I'm more natural. And so he starts rolling a joint and they're like, what is that? And he's like, it's weed. And so they're just looking at each other. And their manager, Brian Epstein, was like, no, we never done that. And they're like, well, Ringo, you go try it. Right. And so he goes in the bathroom with the joint and they're having to, because of the cops, and all that, they had to like put, wet towels and all this shit everywhere. Well, he comes out of the bathroom and he's like, oh my God, I'm on the
Lit
ceiling
up.
right now. He's like, this is the greatest thing ever. So they each went in the bathroom, and that was like the start
That was
of
it.
That was it, man. That was it. So,
Incredible.
yeah, it's no, I find that is the one thing that, jamming where there's nothing like, getting high and jamming with music. Oh
I
my
agree.
God.
I agree.
I
It's
you would
awesome.
think I have friends though that really enjoy microdosing with mushrooms and doing jujitsu. I've never done
Okay.
that.
It's probably similar. I just think like all of it, even the thing with even with jamming, it's kind of the same thing. It's like when you approach any of these activities. I mean, I guess certain activities like it's beneficial to be analytical, but
Hmm.
then there's just certain activities to where the only thing you need to do is just fucking be here now and like let it flow and like, playing music. And even though jujitsu is completely different than playing music in terms of like a physical pursuit, um, it's still really similar because like, when you're out there and you're rolling and you're, I mean, I know you can relate to this. Like when you show up to a session of jujitsu and you're all like in your head about like, I'm going to concentrate on my bottom half card or, I'm really struggling with this position and you're just trying to like figure it out. You always fucking wind up sucking shit. But when you're
Yeah.
able to be calm and just like play and like
Mm.
take what comes and let your body do what it knows how to do, then all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, this is it. And I feel like, certain drugs help put you in that place to where that's not a chore. Like you said,
Yeah.
the story gets shut off. Like I've always found like with jujitsu, whenever I'm in like whenever I've ever leveled up a belt, like right after is always
Oh
like the worst
God.
time because like you have now all of these stories like, oh, I'm a purple belt now, or I just got my blue belt, or now I'm a black belt. You know what I mean? Like, and now you have all of this expectation of like what you're supposed to be and what that's supposed to mean. And then you go through this period of like depression because it's like you're not living up to the story that's in your head. But once you can get rid of the story and you get back to the origin and the genesis of why you do this in the first place, then all of a sudden it starts to happen again. And then you're like, wow, yeah, I am kind of good at this and this is fun and all of the benefits. And it's so amazing how that story really, holds us back. The fuck.
It's all about story. I mean, story causes suffering. Story, and that's why I think it's so interesting that young people, and I'm sure I did it too, the idea of transformation was about, or for them is about, I'm a lion. It's really about, I need to change my story into being that one of a victor, right? I'm the one, I'm going to conquest, I'm a conqueror, I'm a king. When
Well,
for
dude,
the
I mean,
same
like we grew up with Luke Skywalker and you know what I mean, like every fit in every character, you know what I mean, Jesus Christ for that matter, like
hero,
you know what I mean,
yeah,
like
hero,
every
hero.
every story that we're given is like that's the guy you want to be, and we're all, I mean, I'll be the first to admit it that like that is a huge element in my life.
Yeah, but it's what's crazy about it is that, like, for the samurai and all in Mushin mind, it's all about getting rid of the story. If we
Mm.
can get rid of the story, the idea of Mushin mind is you drill something so many times that when you get into combat, it is second nature, and your mind, you want to lose the mind no mind, right? And so ideas of self and saying, I'm going to kick ass, I'm going to kick his ass, I'm going to blah, 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 blah. That's just more story that gets in the way. Whereas if you can just clear the mind, step onto the mat, and you will flow.
Yeah.
That is the idea. Like, that's where we get the mind out of the way. And so, for me, it's been this like relentless pursuit of trying, and it's hard, man. It's impossible, really. It's trying to get free. That's liberation. Get free of those stories. Dude, when I competed last year in Nogi Worlds, I'm very, very good, right? At just clearing my head, just being there in the moment. Dude, 30 seconds in, I'm playing guard or a minute in, I'm playing and I hear a crack, right? And I thought I ruptured a disc in my neck, like one of my artificial discs. It was
Yep.
insane. It was insane. And I was like, it
That
pulled
broke you.
me,
That mentally, that probably broke you.
it mentally, I was all of a sudden back in my mind, and I was like, I got to stop this match right now. Stop
Yep.
the match. Stop
Yep.
the match. My head's going back and forth. Don't stop the match. Stop the match. Don't stop the match. I couldn't even get into, I lost it. It broke me out, and I could not get back in,
Yeah.
for rightfully so. I got to be fair to myself where I'm like, dude, it could be paralyzed if something happens
Yeah.
to my neck. I've had major neck
100%.
surgery. And so, yeah, dude, it's like to be out, to get pulled back into the real world where I'm not just flowing in competition was absolutely devastating. And I'm looking back and I'm like, man, that match would have been so easy to win, but I just couldn't get it. I could not put my
Yep.
mind back in because my rational mind was like, dude, if you get paralyzed for doing a jujitsu tournament, you're going to be you're the biggest idiot that ever lived, right?
Yeah.
After
Yeah.
so
Oh man.
yeah. So anyway, but it was good because it was a good illustration of, for me, of what happened. What is the difference between being in the moment where I'm never thinking to where all of a sudden I'm only thinking. You know what I mean? I'm only thinking. I'm only thinking. So yeah, very, very. It's different. So I guess for some people, like I'm a conqueror. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna whatever. I guess that works for some people, but I think it limits us, right? It limits our ability to be spontaneous in the moment, right? When you watch like Floyd Mayweather or you watch Michael Jordan or you watch Benson Henderson. Was it no, who was it that ran up the side of the cage? I think it was against Benson Henderson,
Yeah.
Pettis, and Anthony
Yeah.
Pettis.
Pettis. Yep.
I mean, those are spontaneous, reactions that we all like watch sports for. And those only happen when the person is completely in the flow. No matter what the sport
Yeah.
is, I'm in the flow. I'm in the flow.
Well,
So
I
the
think the
idea of
conqueror.
telling the self, go ahead.
I think the conqueror mindset only gets you so far. I think it's kind of a requisite in terms of achieving peak performance in any endeavor. I think like that attitude and that spirit, I think it's a requisite, but I think it only gets you so far. It's not the whole story. I think like you get to a point and then you have to like let it go. And which is
Yeah.
counterintuitive, but like to
Yeah.
really achieve like the next level is you
Yeah.
have to be able to let it go and improvise and be flexible and be able to react in the moment rather than have a fixed pattern of like, this is who I am, this is what I do, because nothing is constant, not even being a conqueror.
Yeah. No. And being a musician, the last thing you want to be thinking when you're playing is I'm the greatest. I'm the great. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're not in the moment. You're not, and really I love well, I'm sure we'll talk about it, and we've talked about it about, Rick Rubin and his approach to, life is art. Martial arts are, it is art. Everything is art. Everything.
Yeah.
Everything in this life is us expressing ourselves. And what else is the point? No matter what you're doing, even if you're a garbage man, you want to be able to be like, I'm doing it, I'm the best that I can be, I'm enjoying
Yeah.
it, whatever. Or else what are you doing it for?
Well, whatever you do
So
is an expression to an extent of who you are.
yeah, no doubt. No doubt. No doubt. So how are working outs going? You got your doctor visit. How's working
Yeah,
out going?
working out's going good. Working out's going good. I want to hear more about what you were talking about before about the 14-minute workout because I think like right now I'm doing like full bodies kind of. I'm doing like,
Mm-hmm.
like 2 full body splits a week. I'm trying to get jujitsu in 4 to 5 times a week and then I'm getting 2 days of lifting like full body.
Mm-hmm.
Um but I'm doing way more than fucking 15 minutes, that's for sure.
Well, if you're doing full body, then you can't really do a 15-minute workout. I mean, when I'm
No.
doing a 15-minute workout, for me, I like to work out and lift weights every single day. And part of that is, and that's why I only do I like to just do a 15-minute workout, 14-minute workout. But part of the reason is because a major part of our physiology is our lymph nodes and our endocrine system. And many people think, you got your pituitary glands and you got your thyroids and you got all these aspects of the endocrine system. But a big part of the endocrine system that people don't talk about is the muscles, right? And so the more that we pump up the muscles, contract and constrict, and then relax, constrict, and relax. Think of it like as this pump that pumps throughout the entire body. And if we can do
Mm.
that every single day, even if it's just for 14 minutes, then we release toxins, we release stress. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the reasons I like to do it every day. The reason that I've gone to 14-minute workouts now, when I came back from Sicily, I was weighing like 100 when I was working out over there because the food is so clean. And I was eating Italian food. I got down to 149,
Oh
which is I
shit. What do
have
you weigh? What do you
never
weigh
been
now?
that light in my life. I'm like 160, probably 3 or 4 right now. And
Okay.
so the year after that, I was like, okay, when I got back to America, I competed in Nogi Worlds. And I weighed in then. I was so light. I was like 155. And the weight limit was like 140, or 150, 149 or 152, something like that. And so I was like, I'm either got to go down to featherweight, which I've never done before after Nogi Worlds. I was the lightest person in the bracket. I was by far, people were like, dude, you look much smaller than everybody you went against. So I was either like, well, I'm either going to go down to featherweight or I'm going to gain weight. And so last year, starting in January, I was like, okay, I'm gonna see how much weight muscle I can gain. I don't want to gain any fat. I'm not bulking up. I want to gain muscle. And so I started like doing a lot of research and figuring out how, not being on TRT or steroids at 55, how am I going to put on muscle like this? And so what I landed on, it's very interesting, right? I've been working out forever. And when I first I remember being 12 or 13 years old, Nautilus machines had just come out.
Yeah.
And the whole Nautilus program was about one set per muscle. And it was
Yeah.
about pre-exhaust the muscle, like the bicep, pre-exhaust it with a very, very strict movement, and then go to failure on a heavier movement. So pre-exhaust would be something like you have a compound movement like bench press. Okay. And bench press, it's a compound movement because you're involving multiple muscles. So you're involving the front of your deltoids, you're involving your triceps, and you're involving your chest. The biggest muscle of all of these is your chest. So if you think that just doing bench presses is going to isolate your chest and hit your chest, it's not. Because what's going to happen is when you're benching, the smaller muscles like the front delt or the tricep are going to fail before this big muscle like the chest. And so what we need to do is isolate the pecs doing something like flies, right? And then immediately go to bench, because then when we go to bench, the pecs are already exhausted, so they're going to fail first. And it's only when we push something into the zone of, we stimulate it to a point that it's really exhausted, it cannot move anymore, that you're going to spur growth. So this was the concept behind the whole Nautilus machine, revolution, I guess you call it, back in the early 80s. And it was pioneered by a guy named Arthur Jones. And so Arthur Jones came to this gym where I was a member and, gave a talk and kind of taught me how this worked. And so I've always had in my mind this idea of pre-exhaustion. I've always understood it, but I hadn't gone back to it until last year. And so last year, I started doing more research on pre-exhaustion and Arthur Jones, and started reading about Mike Mentzner, who was an advocate of Mike Jones or Arthur Jones's pre-exhaustion and just going
Nick,
one set to failure.
hang on 1 second. Dime, estoy en una llamada. ¿Tú estás bien? Okay.
Um, okay, so Arthur
Go ahead.
Jones, Mike Mentzner was Mr. Universe, and he was a proponent of the whole Arthur Jones philosophy of one set to failure, and you're done. You're done, because what he was getting at was that what's more important for building muscle is recuperation, not the tearing down. When we're in the gym, we're just tearing the body down. And if your body
Meaning like
doesn't
meaning rest, like rest days.
resting, yes, resting,
Yeah.
rest. And so his idea was you want to put as little stimulus on the body, as little stress on the nervous system as you can, put the maximum amount insofar as that one set on the muscle. But really, what you're looking for is a physiological mechanism to spur muscle growth. And so when you ask people, or even if you ask me before, why are you doing 5-6 sets of 12 reps to 15 reps? I would go, I don't know. Right? That's not science. That's not scientific. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Right? That's superstition. And so last year, I realized, because I didn't want to go on TRT, I realized I'm going to have to figure out how to do this at this age. And so I started like really going into what Mike Mentzner was doing from Arthur Jones, and then how Mike Mentzner taught Dorian Yates, who's really one of the greatest bodybuilders that ever lived. And Dorian Yates did the same thing. He was like, if you read about Dorian Yates, and this is a guy who did a lot of steroids, right? And Mike Mentzner
Yeah.
also. So I'm not on steroids. And if these guys are saying, even when you're on steroids, that, which is the ultimate recovery tool, that you should only be doing one set, maybe 2 sets per muscle group, and working out for 15 minutes, then I was like, then definitely I should be doing it at my age and not being on steroids or TRT. And
so you
so
think that like the doing it in small doses every day for the most part is giving you like the right amount of dose, but then not overextending so that you can continue to do it like across time. And that's like balancing intensity and recovery. Like the intensity is coming from doing it, or volume or whatever you want to call it, is coming from doing it every day. But recovery is coming from the fact that you're never overdoing it in any one session. Is that a fair way to look at it?
You're not, yeah, because you're not, the problem is not overtaxing the muscle, it's overtaxing the nervous system. When your nervous system is overtaxed, then you're not going to recover. It's not going to happen. Your muscles are torn down from the workout and your body's not recovering. And so that's why bodybuilders really emphasize rest. That's why Andy Galpin, we talked about him, is all about rest. Calm the nervous system down, meditate, listen to calm music, sit in a dark room, do nothing, let your body recover. And so I started doing this last year, and I went from 153 to 169 of just pure muscle gain. Yeah.
And not eating differently. Eating the same.
Yeah, eating the same. Not adding anything, nothing.
So it's interesting you're talking about this, because like yesterday when I was with that doctor and he was like, you need to, I'm like, I got on the scale, I was like 183 yesterday. and
Mhm.
I've lost a lot of weight, and I'm definitely leaner than I've ever been. But I have I kind of like how I have a little bit of bulk to me. So like I kind of like, and he's like, well, you got to drop down to like 172, and I'm like, all right, I from the health perspective, but like I don't want to look like a skeleton. You know what I mean? Like I want to still maintain a little bit of size. And I was like, oh, how the fuck am I going to do that? You know what I mean? But well, this is a way.
This is the way. It's all about lifting weights. And so, people always ask me about, like losing weight and gaining muscle. And for me, gaining muscle is purely a function of lifting weights and putting the proper stress on the body, and then resting. Are you sleeping? Are you recovering? Are you reducing your stress throughout the day? Not protein. I haven't had meat, as you know, since 35 years. I don't worry
Wow.
about protein. I don't even think about protein. I think it's one of the most overblown myths that there is in all of health, is the idea that we need protein, man. It's like, dude, are you crazy? Supplement industry is multi. It's like the movie industry. It's so big,
Interesting.
billions. So what's the easiest thing to sell? Whey. What is whey?
Yeah.
Whey is the shit that comes off the milk when you're making, you're milking cows. It's something that they threw away, and all of a sudden, some genius, probably Joe Weider, said, "You're throwing that away." Whey, no pun intended, but
Wait a second.
wait, yeah, that's good. So the idea, was that let's just repackage it. So if you go to any nutrition like expos, you'll see that 99% of everything in the nutrition expo is whey. They've taken this whey and they've molded it into bars, Quest bars and shakes and all this shit, and it's toxic. It's toxic. It's nonsense. It may taste good because they put enough shit in it, chemicals in it, but it's toxic. And so,
I know people that respond. Like I supplement with protein. I tolerate it pretty well, but I know a lot of people that struggle with it, that it really fucks up their stomach. Um, I mix it into like a chia pudding. Um,
I
like
do the same thing, but I'll do that with like a very
a vegan protein.
clean, yeah, very, very clean protein, not with whey. Whey
Yeah,
has it in all of us. Listen, we're the only mammals on Earth that drink another mammal's baby
milk. Yeah,
milk.
yeah,
How in the world is that healthy? It's
yeah,
not.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not healthy. It's
It's
nonsense.
it's
Cheese
definitely a
tastes
strange
good.
thing. Yep,
Cheese tastes good. I'm not going to say it doesn't taste good. I'm just saying it's
does.
not healthy, man. It's not healthy. That's a bunch of bullshit. And we've been indoctrinated by the big agriculture, right? Got Milk, all those campaigns.
Yeah.
That's just, and it ain't to make you healthy. That's just sell fucking product, man. You know,
That's why you get it's wild. You can easily go down
right?
those you can easily go down those
Trillions of
paths.
dollar industry, man. Come on. Don't be a
Remember
sucker.
Got Milk? That's crazy.
Yes.
Got Milk was a campaign paid for by like the dairy farmers. It wasn't even like Got Milk wasn't even a like a brand's campaign. Like it would be one thing if it was like, XYZ Milk Corporation who wants to sell milk. But it was like the dairy farmers. Like that's a really interesting thing when you think about it like that.
It's a
Like it's paid for
conspiracy.
by like, yeah, it kind of, yeah. Like, 'cause what else could that be? It's like, hey, we're this industry and everybody's going to get together and the government's going to subsidize this message.
That's right. It's a
Very
conspiracy.
strange.
It's a conspiracy, and they have lobbyists, and their lobbyists get paid millions of dollars, and they get subsidies, and dude, it's come on, man.
I mean,
Everybody
I
wants
mean,
to talk
like,
about JFK and all this shit. It's like, just go look at your grocery aisle. Look at the
yeah,
obesity epidemic in America. When I came back from
yeah.
Italy, when I came back from Europe, and I hadn't been here for a year, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Americans are fat as fuck. I
Yep.
couldn't even believe it. I couldn't even believe it.
And even that,
It
like, that's another fucking thing that they're putting out there. Like, they want, like, what's that guy? Jordan Peterson. He got in a lot of trouble for this, but um, they're trying to romanticize, like, being overweight, and like they're trying to like make people feel as though, like, you should feel good about it. And it's like, yeah, I understand. Like, you don't want to put out a message of of shaming people, or like insulting them, but at the same time, you got to call a spade a spade. It's not healthy to be in that condition, and it should not be celebrated for feeling's sake.
it's horrible, and it's not fair to the people. And the problem with it, and I get what they're saying. The problem is, if you're going to shame people about the way they look, you have to, at the same time, with the same another hand, you've got to educate them on what is healthy. What is a healthy
Yeah.
diet? What is not a healthy diet? Get milk, eat milk, or drink milk, or whatever. That's shit. That's nonsense. So if you're going to shame people for, being obese, you got to tell them at the same time that all this meat and all this dairy is killing them. All these carbohydrates are killing them. All these
Yeah.
chemicals are killing them.
It's crazy,
You
dude.
got to eat clean. You got to eat, it's not, and as you know, it's not that I'm necessarily against meat. I just think you got to scale it back to 5% of your diet, 10% of
Yeah.
your diet. You got to have fiber. We need fiber. That's what we need. And so, it's, again, it's not like you got to become someone who's like a total vegan. I don't ever tell anybody to go vegan. But it's just like, be aware. I eat pizza every once in a while. If I can ever find a good one, which I can't, but if I can, when I was in
Yeah.
Sicily, I could.
You got to come
Um,
up. You got to come up this way. We got good pizza over here.
I know. It's so bad. I actually had pizza the other night. I like to have pizza like once every 3 weeks or whatever, but
Yeah.
for me, the crust around here is so bad. Bad pizza now, after I've been now, for some reason, dude, I don't know if you've had this. Have you had sourdough pizza?
I believe so. I was in Manhattan not too long ago, and I went to like this new spot, and they import the dough from Italy, and it was like light and airy, and it was fantastic. And you walked out of there not feeling like you
Exactly.
weighed 1,000 pounds. And my wife and I and my kids, and we were like talking about it, and we were like, we just ate a shit ton of pizza, but don't feel gross. And it was like that.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Yeah, it's a totally, the pasta and the pizza over there, the pizza dough, is there's something different about the wheat. I don't know what it is. And the
Yeah.
only thing that I've had that replicates it here is sourdough pizza dough. It's very
Okay.
similar. And so there's a place in Miami called La Natural, and they do that. There's a couple of places now in Miami that do it. And I'm sure up there, you got it too, or very similar. But they got to, it's hard. It's hard to you either got to import it because it's a different wheat
Yep.
germ, or you got to go ahead and ferment the sourdough. So, I'm no chef, but it's good, man. It's so good. Anyways, so I think, back to what we were saying about shaming people, it's like you can't just shame people. You have to give them the tools to understand, how it is that you lose weight. And
Yeah.
it's the same way with working out. You go in the gym, and it's admirable that you see people in the gym working out, but I now will watch people work out, and I'm like, you have no idea what you're doing. You are in
Yeah.
here spending more energy and more time, and it's being wasted because
Well, you know what's
go
interesting
ahead.
is like I use my Apple Watch in the gym, and like my thing is like I want to burn 500 calories. So like I'll go to the gym and I'll do like a 20-minute incline walk on the treadmill, and then I'll lift weights, and then maybe sometimes I'll finish up with another incline walk on the treadmill. But like, I it's one back to the story. You know what I mean? Like in my mind, like the burning of the 500 calories is like the number to signify that I did a good job, that I hit the mark. But maybe it's not. You know what I mean? Maybe it's more about like what you're talking about, to where like
Well, Jesse, how often are you doing jujitsu?
I'm trying to get it anywhere between 3 to 5 times a week.
Yeah, I mean, you should not be doing any cardio when you're doing jujitsu on that day
Yeah.
because
No, no,
it's jujitsu.
I'm almost never doubling sessions. I'm never going to the gym and lifting or doing any of that on the same day as I do jujitsu. I just
Okay,
I don't have the band with all of the other shit that I have in my life. I don't have the bandwidth for that.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah, because that's the quickest route to overtraining. And again,
Yeah.
again, I think it's important to stress that in the jujitsu community, right? I come from art of jujitsu, and there's a lot of media that comes out about these young elite black belts, right? And I think it's very important to understand that these kids are just kids
Yeah, sure.
and they have this capacity. Not only are they kids, they're professional athletes. So everyone is different. Mike Mentzner talked about this, is that everyone's nervous system is different. Some people, he would have them work out once every 4 days for 15 minutes. That's it.
Hmm.
Because
Wow.
they could not recover. Their nervous systems could not recover. It's very important not to look ever to a professional athlete and say, this is how I should be working out, or this is how I should be eating.
Yeah,
You're
sure.
talking about someone who's a genetic freak who is probably 18 to 22 years old, right?
And whose job
And
is to do
remember,
that.
and that's their only thing they do.
Yeah.
So it's silly. It's really, and I hear people say that, and I'm just like, dude, you're 38 years old.
Yeah.
You've never competed in your life, and you're gonna
Yeah.
try and mirror the workout routine and the diet of that? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
So what Mike Mentor would say was that, listen, you go into the gym for a reason. And the reason is to build muscle. And if you're not putting on, and the way to gauge your progress, because muscle will follow strength, is, are you getting stronger? Document your workouts. And so, if I'm doing flies, right, and that's my pre-exhaust, and I go right into bench, the question is, what am I doing flies with? If I was doing flies last week to failure where I could do 15 reps with 40 pounds, 2 weeks later, am I up to 50 pounds? Am I up to 45 pounds at least?
Yeah,
Am I
sure.
getting a few more reps? Am I
Yeah,
getting stronger? If I'm not getting stronger, then I'm doing something wrong. I'm either
sure.
not pushing myself to failure, or I'm not resting. There's only two, or I'm just not, my diet's not good enough, because one of the things that you have to understand is that any kind of stress deprives the body of energy. That energy is used to build muscle. And one of the principal sources of stress is digestive stress. If you're packing in whey protein and you're eating all the time, right? And you're I got to get, I'm eating meatballs and I'm eating this and I'm eating that. And you're always
Just to
full and
get
you're feeling
calories.
bloated.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's not, people tell themselves why they do it. They do it because they like food, and it's a pleasure. It's a sensory pleasure that they
It's
give
another
into.
vice. It's
It's
another
a
vice.
vice. It's a coping mechanism, right? It
Yep.
feels good. We just do it. It's a drug, you know.
It's
So
crazy.
yeah. So
What is what is like a
go ahead.
cheat situation look for you? Like what's an indulgence? Like when you're like, all right, I want to fucking treat myself and I want to just indulge in
Okay.
food.
I love to indulge, right? We all love to indulge. I love the taste of food, but for the most part, I'd say 99% of everything I eat, I make myself. And so I make
Okay.
my own hummus and I love it. I love making my own hummus. I roast the garlic. For me, I love that. That's a great, the things that we crave are the things that our gut biome knows. So, for me, I like salad. The more I eat salad, the more I crave salad. If I go off on a kick where I'm not eating as much salad, then I won't crave it as much. As far as something sweet that I crave, like if I'm craving something like salty, then I'll take chickpeas and I'll rinse them off a can of chickpeas. I'll throw it in the air fryer till they're crunchy like popcorn. And then I'll toss them in olive oil and like salt and maybe smoked paprika or something like that, or even onion salt or whatever to give them that. To me, I always try and substitute when I have a craving. If I'm craving something salty, I'll do something like that. If I'm craving something sweet, one of my favorite things is to just get a big thing of Hershey's dark chocolate, 100% cacao,
Yep.
and I will mix that with either like a chia seed pudding. I'll put a lot of chocolate and I'll put salt on it. I love salt with
I do the
something
same thing, and
sweet.
that works really well. That 100% cacao mixed strategically with other stuff gives you that like illusion of chocolate, but
Yeah.
not all of
Well,
the yeah.
it's not an illusion of chocolate because it is chocolate, right?
Yeah.
It is
Yeah, you're
chocolate.
right. You
So,
you're right.
it's not a chocolate bar, but you could make it into, you can get like, you could get that right there and you could mix it with a really, really, really light where you can't even taste it coconut oil. I think Trader Joe's sells like that. And you can mix that up with like monk fruit and sea salt, and you could freeze that and go take it out and chew on those things. And that is a very healthy chocolate, kind of a frozen bar. I love frozen chocolate. So I'll do that. I love that. I think
So
it's
but
great.
I get and I can sense how like you're at a place where you've even got the cravings and the indulgences managed. But like what like if and when you go off the reservation, what do you do? Or does that not even really happen anymore?
No, it does. It will. If I'm flying, then I'll get a dark chocolate bar.
Okay.
Like if I'm flying,
Okay.
I'm like, yeah. It's always
Fuck
my
it.
like I'm like, fuck it, man. I want a chocolate bar while I'm on the plane. Or I'll even get a
Yep, yep.
Hershey's almond bar.
Yep.
Or you know or pizza. I mean, pizza is,
Pizza.
without question. Yeah, but the only thing is I want good pizza. Now I'm like, so like I said, after having pizza like you had recently, you're just like, dude,
Yep.
I don't want to eat shitty pizza anymore, man, because I don't feel
Yeah.
good afterwards. I don't want to eat it and immediately be like, I feel like shit.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Like if you're going to indulge and you're going to treat yourself, you at least want to walk away from that feeling and walk away from that event and say, "All right, I enjoyed it." Not like,
I
"Oh my god, I
enjoyed
ate
it.
this and now I feel like shit." Like that's the worst.
Yes. I think what's happened, like the more clean I've eaten over the years, the more I associate immediately when I'm looking at a food, I'm associating and I'm immediately thinking of how I'm going to feel afterwards. I know it. And I already
Yeah.
feel that as I'm looking at the food.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
but also, you know, I talk about this with people a lot, is structure is very important. I'm also like, I get up in the morning and I have my lemon water, and then I am going ahead and I'm having my gorilla coffee. And then and it's very much like this. Your body craves also at the time it's supposed to crave. And so my body knows come lunchtime, it's time to eat. If I just neglect the structure, to me, discipline is structure. And so if I'm undisciplined and I stretch it 2, 3 hours past, I'm off the reservation, man. And I'm probably going to eat something that I shouldn't eat.
Well, I think that's I think to sum it up is like that's the part that most people can't do. It's the structure. And I like that's it. That's the hardest part of all of it is committing or dialing in some sort of a structure. And I think if you can get over that hump, I think then it all gets a lot easier because like and for me, like if I fall out of structure, but once I'm in it, it feels really good because then it's kind of like you're like
That's right.
liberated. You're
That's
liberated
right.
from like having to think too much. You know what I mean? Like you know
That's
what you're
right.
gonna eat. You don't have to like figure it out. Like you've already got a plan. You brought your food with you, or like you say, you cook. Um, I mean, I like I can't cook for shit. I can't do anything. My wife hooks me up and like, she's a sidekick on the whole mission. But she's always like making me stuff. And like I love that because it's like I know what I'm gonna eat, I know what I'm gonna eat. I don't have to think about it. And if I'm in that flow, I'm not like, you know what, man, I really want to have X, Y, and Z because I don't really give a fuck. I mean, like, yeah, I like food to taste good, but I'm more like, I'm working, man. I got shit to do. Like, give me it, let me eat it, and I got to keep fucking going. And when it's
And,
good and
and
healthy and the right things, it's better.
and I think it's you hit on it right there. I think when you are eating at a certain time every day, it really does become less important, right? It becomes less critical where, I'm not sitting there like if I'm 2 hours over, I'm like, I got to get this and I'm ravenous. And all of a sudden, if it's like, oh, it's 12 o'clock, break out the salad, have your salad, have this, it's easier to deal with it that way. It's the like,
Yeah.
some people like, I watch them, they ping pong between the stress of work than to the stress of needing to eat because they're 2 hours late and they're
Yep.
ravenous. And then they eat too much food and then they're tired and they got to drink 3 cups of espresso or coffee,
Yeah.
that's
It's
not
not good.
healthy, man. No, it's not. It's not.
No.
So, yeah, for me, man, it's all about structure, man. My day, I could tell you exactly what my day is going to look like for the most part every single day. I do the
Same.
same damn thing and I like it that way. Do you like it that way?
I don't like so for me, I don't do the same thing every day, like as a virtue of like what I do for a living. But like I have a team of people that I work with, and like my calendar is preset like for months. You know what I mean? Like, so like I know what my times are. I know where I have to be. I know what I have to do. And then food is fashioned around that. So like and I eat at the same time every day. I wake up at the same time for the most part every day. And like I have to have a structure because if I like left to my own devices, I would be that ping pongy kind of like go how I feel and going off improvisation and like, but I benefit greatly from like I am not good at establishing structure, but I operate very well inside of structure. I don't fight it. Like I know people who are like me that try to fight it and try to say, "Well, you can't put me in a box, man," and like I got to do what I do the way I do it. And I think that's bullshit. I think that's just fear. I have recognized that I don't have the ability to establish structure to be the person who kicks it off and creates it and implements it. But if it's created for me, I operate at my best inside of it. And that for me was a huge, huge moment of shift in my life to where like, when I first started out
Wow.
in business, when I first
Yeah.
started out in business, I was kind of like alone and I did most of my own implementation and figuring stuff out. And as things grew and things changed and I started getting better people around me, and
Hmm.
realizing that like you don't have to be the guy who can do everything the best. If you have people who can help you with this thing that obviously does not come natural to you, it was one of those like, Muhammad under the cherry tree. That's definitely the wrong analogy, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
um, and like it was a huge like eureka moment to where like, all right, wow, I understand that this thing that other people are good at, if they can help me with it, I can benefit from it greatly rather than like choosing the ego path of like, well, that's not how I do things. I know so many people that say that. Well, that's not how I do things. It's like, no, you're a fucking idiot. You're choosing to be afraid rather than
Yeah.
level up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really good point, man. It's a really good point. All right, brother. This was a good
All
one,
right,
man.
man.
I'm glad we got to delve into this one. This was a really because this is the
Hell yeah.
one the 14-minute workouts. I'm glad we touched on that because this is the question I get all the time. People are like, "How is that possible? How is that possible?"
Yeah.
That's how it's possible.
You got to kill the story and create a new one. That's what it
That's
is.
right. That's right. Kill the story that tells you you have to work out for an hour and a half every day to get muscles because it's
Yep.
nonsense.